Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Xpert Talk. Today, we are focusing on the art world and the design world. I have invited Elin, who is an art director slash designer slash painter. She's originally from Sweden, but now based in Barcelona. And yeah, I'm so excited to have you here, Elin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to your community.
Yeah, and I love the little like artsy stand you have there in the background. I don't even know the word for it in English, but it's so cool.
Yeah, me neither. I just know in Spanish and Swedish.
But it really creates a vibe for the conversation, which I love. So yeah, and
It's random.
yeah, no, I love it. But I just wanted to start off by like, if you can tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like in your profession, because I know that you do several things, right? So if you can just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for the past 6 years, I have been running my own company. I've been working as a freelancer and a consultant for other companies. So, which means I have had very flexible hours, and I haven't. So before that, I was working in advertising agencies as art director and designer, which was, you know, more typical office work where I went every day. I worked probably more than the normal hours. Um, but for after that, for the past 6 years, um, I've been doing this kind of freelance or running my own business. So it means that I have, working with clients that are not here, or I work for clients. For example, I have clients in Sweden, but I'm living in Barcelona. So we have like meetings in Zoom, for example, and so it's more like I decide when to have a meeting. I decide which client I want to work with. I mean, sometimes I work in the night and I sleep in the morning, and like it's 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 been more like I've been creating my own day-to-day situation. But I sort of have experience of both these two different worlds.
No, that's really cool. And how you're really living like the digital nomad dream with living in Barcelona and then having like freelancing for clients in other parts of the world, which I think it's really cool. And so a little bit more about what it is that you actually do, because we can throw around like titles like designer, art director, but it's like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, I was working in advertising agencies for about 5 or 6 years back in Sweden, and that my title was graphic designer slash. It was actually art director, but depending on where you are, it's like being a graphic designer many times because, for example, most of the years I was working in a small agency, so I had to do like everything. And I when I when I went to school and when I went through like when I started my career, it was more oriented around print, like catalogs, advertising material, a lot of printing material, business cards for companies, um, like the how do you say advertisers in the newspapers. Ads, like a lot of this, like newspaper ads, magazine ads. That was like, wow, that was the coolest thing. Like when I started, and so much has changed. So today, it's not that much focus on it. I mean, obviously, everything is very digital today. So it's creating marketing online, website design or app design, ads online. I've been doing, since I started my own business, I've been doing lots of branding, which means logo type design, and when a company is starting up, right, they need some kind of visual identity, like branding, colors, logo type, working with, yeah, all this, like how this brand can express themselves either in print or in digital. So I've been working a lot, very close with startups to create their visual expression. So yes, that, yeah.
No, that's great. It's like a great description of what it is, like what you started out as and how the industry has evolved over the years, which I think is really like good to take into consideration when you're moving into a field, is that you need to keep learning, because I bet that you've had to adapt your skill set and like moving from print to digital and all that. So that's really great. And you've been able to like try out different things, you know? And yeah.
Definitely. So, and there's a lot of video, like animation and video. It's just, it's booming, obviously. So social media as well. Like, you need design everywhere, and design is just becoming more and more important because it's so important to present yourself in social media and online today. So there's really a demand for this.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like, you mentioned earlier, not in this conversation, but previous conversation that we had, is that you're okay in several things within like the designer field, but you're not, you don't have a niche where you're like extremely good at one thing. And how has that been for you throughout your career? How has it been for you to create a career on, you know, not having a particular niche?
I like that you say it, because I don't think we talk about it enough. I think the society many times today tells us that you should be great at one thing, and you know, it's more status to have to be nerdy about something, right? It has a higher status than if you're like have a little bit different kind of skills. And for me, it made sense to work with communication because of that. Because, you know, I was good at writing, but I was not a writer, but I was good at expressing myself. And I was good with, you know, like I loved working in a team, but I also love working by myself as when I'm an artist and do painting. And it's always been like, who am I? Which am I gonna fit into, right? So it has been a struggle, because I thought I had to be good at one thing, but now I'm more calm these days. I've been working so much, and I realized that it's something very useful for me. It's been super useful for me running my own business, because you're like, you basically do a little bit of everything, and the relationship with the client is really important. You need to be good at selling. You need to be good at, you know, explaining yourself, and you need to be good at, you know, psychology, that I'm really into as well, like understanding people's behavior, good at writing, good at obviously drawing or colors and all of that, but also like storytelling. You need to understand trends, what's happening, have this sensibility for new things that's coming, and just being excited about new things in general. And I think I've always been like curious about things. That's my thing. Like, I'm just curious in general. So it doesn't matter if I have a client who works with I had a client, like they made garden hoses, for example, you know, like it can be like super random, but there's always something, you can always find something fun in with everything, I think, if you're curious and just, yeah.
Yeah, and I bet that that allows you to try out so many different things, like when you're not, and keep staying curious and just wanting to learn more. And yeah, it's a good skill to have, or a good like trait to have, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you're interested in, if you like variation and work with different kind of things, uh, it's great. It's great to work with communication or advertising or graphic design. Uh,
Yeah, because you also mentioned that you've been like doing writing, and you've been doing like other bit, like more like strategic stuff. I guess since you're a freelancer, you have to do those bits as well. But that
mm,
it's interesting to hear how like you're not only doing the design part, you're doing
mm,
other parts of the process of creating communications as well.
mm.
Yeah. And so since you have this creative profession, how, like, because I feel like I also have a creative profession, but a lot of the time, or a lot of the time, sometimes I can find myself struggling when it comes to my
Mm,
creativity and keeping it alive. And also when you have a creative profession, it comes with the pressure that you have to perform. Like your
mm,
creativity has to be like, it has to have a standard sort of.
mm, mm.
So how do you keep your creativity alive?
Uh, yeah, it's a constant learning all the time.
Hmm.
It I think it's a combination of taking care of yourself, um, like not putting that kind of pressure on you all the time, because I think also the pressure can ruin, like it can be too much pressure can also be bad for your creativity, or it can block you. So I think it's very important to be kind to yourself and take care of yourself, and not always, you know, sometimes you just need to sleep, sometimes you just need to have a good dinner and be okay with that. And I love sleeping, and I do that a lot. And
I love
it's just
that.
a lot of things like to do journaling, or go to the nature if you like to do nature, if you like nature. Um, and for me, it's just like having lots of fun, and obviously, I don't know, it's uh, just keep. I think professionally, um, I mean, I love Pinterest and I love Instagram because it's just constant flow of inspiration, following people that I like, artists that I like, and just you know gather all this. And then maybe I'm not going to use that inspiration the next day, but it's like in the back of my head. And then maybe 1 year later, someone asks about something, and then I'm like, oh yeah, but I saw this here this time, like, oh, it reminded me of this and this, maybe we can do this. So it's like a constant collecting ideas all the time, just for fun, because for me it's like food for me, so it's not really uh it's not a lot of energy. I mean, it's something that I like to do, and I do it anyway, it's not a big effort, but yeah, it's this balance, I think, of going out there and collect the inspiration, and then listen to the body, and stay present and take care of yourself as well.
Amazing. Thank you for that advice. I'll keep that in mind moving forward for sure. Um, and speaking a little bit about the future of your field, because we touched a little bit upon it earlier, or you mentioned animation and stuff and social media. But what like emerging trends, or like what does the future look like in the field of design for someone moving into the field quite soon? Um, what should they keep in mind, sort of?
I mean, yeah, there's so many different types of designers, and like I'm not a stereotype designer either, because there are definitely, I must say, there are designers who are very niche and very nerdy about one thing, and
Yeah.
they for sure can find they can find, usually in a big company, they can find their thing there. uh so it's not like you have to be a multi kind of person like I am to be a designer, but that's who I am, you know, and that's my experience. That's why I'm talking about it. But yeah. Anyway, there are many different kind of designers, and like it's in the end, it's do what you think is fun, because that's no one can ever take that away from you, and no trend can change that. You have to follow what you're really passionate about, and if it's not aligned with the trends right now, you need to find a way how to. It's just a matter of how to interact your passion. You can always interact it somehow, or you can find your way. Like I don't want to be like, oh, you should do video because that's the latest thing. Because then you're gonna do things because of expectations, or maybe not for the right reasons. But I mean, yes, the trends are obviously video, animation, and all these kind of things. But I don't recommend anyone to be like, oh, I'm gonna do that just because that's the latest thing. Maybe the next thing, we don't know yet. Maybe that the young people are out there creating the future, and I'm just gonna sit here and wait for it, you know. I don't know if that's really helpful.
No, I think it's super helpful. No, it's like, screw trends, do you. I think that's really important, something that maybe I think I've never had that answer before, actually, on one of these talks. But I think it's very it's very nice that you're lifting this, and that you don't always, obviously we should stay up to date and etc., but you shouldn't challenge your own values or challenge your own passions just because of trends, obviously. No, I think that's super important that you mentioned that.
And also I think like don't be afraid to go against the trends, and be honest with your passion. So let's say you love psychology and you love graphic design. Maybe that you can be a graphic designer for specialized for psychologists, you know, because you know that word, or you know how they express themselves, or you know, or you can be like, I believe in like, you can actually embrace those combinations of things that you're passionate about. I know a guy who's a graphic designer, and he was working before as a chiropractor. So he all his clients are in the chiropractic practice. So he's really good at that, and he knows exactly how these drawings are supposed to look like, you know. And I do believe in that way of finding your way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to the last bit of this interview, which is 3 quick questions with 3 quick answers. So you don't have to elaborate a lot on these ones. It's just to these are questions that we ask everyone that comes on these interviews. So are you ready, Elin?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay. So what good in the world does your job do?
I think it just makes it complicated things easier. So I think I'm like person between a complex product and the user, and I'm just make it more easy and less friction in these kind of situations. And I also think we shouldn't put it. It's a lot of pressure to say to put on yourself, like you have to do good in the world, because that's such a big question. Like, come on, like, are we all gonna save the world and save poverty? Like, that's just, I think it puts pressure that can be also like negative stress maybe for people. So I definitely think anything we do out of passion, we can find a way that's helpful for someone else, even if it's just like helping somebody to understand a product. We did something, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this kind of big save the world question.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. No, you're completely right. No, you're completely right. It can be as simple as that, as removing friction between a brand and a user, for sure. I completely agree. And what is the best part of your job?
Oh, there's so many good parts of it. I
Is
don't
it too
know.
hard to choose?
Yeah. I like, the variety maybe.
Mm, yeah.
And I get to solve problems, which is satisfying for me.
Yeah.
And I love to help, like to see that I can do something easier for someone else
Mm,
to understand, and it's just, I think that's great. It's very satisfying for me.
great.
Help a brand to express themselves,
Yeah.
and I can see they're super happy about it, and they feel proud of their company, and they feel like uh, they found a way to express themselves, and I'm super happy to be able to help out.
Great. And what advice would you give to someone looking to get into your field?
Um, yeah, I definitely think like um, don't stop yourself and think it should be in a certain way, or there's certain rules, or anything. Just like if you feel something if you feel the passion inside of you, just go for it 100%, and find mentors, find people who reach out to people who already work there, or people that you look up to, or people that inspires you, and reach out to them, or follow them, their content, or uh, just, yeah, and have fun. I think when you have fun,
Mm,
it creativity will flow,
yeah.
and it go it will go somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Thank you so much, Elin. That was all I had
Okay.
for this interview, but it's been great having you, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I hope too. Thank you for inviting me.
Cool. Okay.
It was
Enjoy the
lots
rest.
of fun.
Yay.
Yeah,
And enjoy the rest of your day.
you too.